The Florida Panthers are on the verge of doing something that we haven't seen in over a decade. Now 8 points back at the playoff line with only 22 games remaining, it's very likely that the Panthers will miss the playoffs despite winning the last 2 Stanley Cups. Let's talk about why they struggled and some other Cup champions that face the same problem. For the Panthers' struggles this season, almost everyone will immediately point to injuries. And while this is certainly a factor, not enough people are talking about how much Bob has fallen off. The Panthers have the second worst team save percentage in the league, and Bobrovsky's advanced stats are also pretty bad. Although if they were fully healthy, they may be in a playoff spot, I truly believe this Panthers team is no longer the same because of the goaltending. The LA Kings won 2 Stanley Cups in 2012 and 2014, and ever since the NHL went to the West and Eastern Conference format in 1993, these 2 Kings teams are actually the only 2 Cup winners to finish as a 6th seed or lower. From 2010 to 2014, the Kings made it to the playoffs all 5 seasons, yet they never finished higher than the 5th seed. This was a team that was not that special during the regular season, but was built perfectly for playoff hockey. Because of this and the Western Conference being very good at the time, it's not overly surprising that the Kings missed the playoffs in 2015. The 05-06 Hurricanes were an extremely underrated Cup champion. They had a very deep forward group, a solid D-core, and goaltender Cam Ward performed when it mattered most. But in the offseason, the Hurricanes lost some depth up front, and goaltending also took a step back. The Oilers also missed the playoffs in 2007, making 2006 the only time in NHL history where both finalists missed the playoffs the next season. The 95-96 Devils scored the second fewest goals in the league, but also allowed the second fewest goals against, which pretty much summed up Devils hockey at the time. They weren't a bad team and would end up finishing 12th in the league. But the East was much deeper than the West, and the Devils would miss out on a playoff spot on the last day of the season. And speaking of missing out on the last day of the season, we have the 1970 Montreal Canadiens. I've already talked about this wild ending to a season in depth on a Fun Fact Friday, but long story short, the 1970 Canadiens missed out on the playoffs by just 3 goals. In an effort to score more goals in their final game, the Canadiens kept their goalie pulled throughout the third period, which is why they allowed 5 empty net goals in this game, a record unlikely to be broken. They were victims of the divisional change after the NHL added 6 more teams, where they finished 5th in the league, but also 5th out of 6 in their division. And the 1968 Toronto Maple Leafs faced a similar issue, where they weren't necessarily bad, but playing in a division full of original 6 teams made it much harder to make it to the playoffs. Shown here are the points percentage changes going from Cup champs to missing the playoffs, where the 07 Hurricanes are really the only team that dropped significantly. But of course, this season is not over yet. Will the Panthers pull off a miraculous comeback? According to MoneyPuck.com, their playoff odds are 5.8%. I think the season may be too far gone for the Florida Panthers. But if you want to learn more about these teams, then be sure to check out the recent blog post at slapshotbets.com.